Good morning, everyone. Let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, everyone who's here in person and everyone who's joined us online, and welcome to the first 2024 convening of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. I'm Allison Barkoff, and I lead the Administration for Community Living, and I'm so proud to serve as the delegated chair of the council, standing in for my boss, Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra, who's our chair. And Secretary Becerra sends his regrets as his schedule required travel today, but I am so excited to stand in for him today for this really important convening. Really excited that this is our first in-person meeting since 2019. And being here a few minutes early, seeing the connections between people, this is so amazing. And secondly, we are really marking an incredible moment in time. We have a great schedule put together, looking at how we started EJCC a little more than a decade ago, what we've achieved in our 10 years, and importantly, the work we have looking forward. As my first duty, it is a tremendous and distinct pleasure and privilege to welcome the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland. We're delighted to have him join us this morning to open our Elder Justice Coordinating Council as our meeting host. Attorney General Garland, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Allison. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this convening of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. I'm particularly happy to welcome the Council for the first time to the Department of Justice. Since some of you are new to the building, I want to talk a little bit about this space. The building was dedicated 90 years ago in 1934 with President Roosevelt in attendance. During the Clinton and Bush administration, it underwent a massive renovation, but the architects went to great lengths to ensure that the building, including this great hall, retained its historic integrity. In 2001, it was rededicated and renamed the Robert F. Kennedy Building. There's a bust of the former Attorney General on the stage. In this hall, we are surrounded by, of all things, teller windows, or I should say former teller windows. Decades ago, this is where Justice Department attorneys went to get their pay in cash. Before you ask, that was long before my time. But times have changed, and the department has changed along with them. As this group well knows, elder justice is another area that has required us to adapt. When the Elder Justice Coordinating Council had its inaugural meeting more than 10 years ago, we could not have known of the environment we would be operating in 10 years later. Back then, artificial intelligence, that was just sci-fi. Now it's shaping some of the greatest opportunities, but also the greatest risks for elder Americans. Fortunately, our agencies have the wisdom to anticipate that no matter what the future held, our best tactic for combating elder abuse would be working together. And that is just what the Elder Justice Coordinating Council has ensured. Every year, millions of older adults experience some form of elder abuse, neglect, financial exploitation, or fraud. We know that the vast majority of elder abuse cases go unreported, and that too many victims remain unseen. That is why the department has aggressively targeted perpetrators of elder fraud and abuse while providing victims with the support they need. In the last 5 years, the Justice Department has pursued more than 1,500 criminal and civil cases involving conduct that targeted or disproportionately affected older adults. We have provided services to more than 1.5 million older victims, and we have returned hundreds of millions of dollars to elder fraud victims. The Elder Justice Coordinating Council has played a key role in that work. Today, the Council is a critical vehicle for information sharing and coordination among the federal agencies in their efforts to address elder abuse and fraud. This has not only enabled us to stay informed of important developments in the field, it has also enabled our agencies to support and amplify each other's work. In recent years, the Council has enhanced the reach of the Justice Department's mass mailing fraud prevention initiative, as well as the Social Security Administration's Slam the Scam Day awareness campaign. This February, the Justice Department, with the support of the Council, held the inaugural National Elder Justice Law Enforcement Summit. This event brought together local, state, and federal law enforcement to help foster collaboration, both among departments with elder justice professionals and with elder justice professionals. We know these partnerships make a huge difference in combating despicable crimes against older Americans. The Coordinating Council has also become an important tool for coordinating with the people we serve. The Council has raised public awareness of a wide variety of issues, including novel elder fraud schemes and promising research on elder abuse. Threats to elder justice are constantly evolving. Our partnerships have never been more important. As we confront the expansion of transnational fraud schemes and the rapid advancement of AI, we must work together to make sure that older Americans can live their lives safely and with dignity. I am confident that this Council will continue to meet the challenges and advance the cause of elder justice, just as it has done for more than 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Attorney General Garland, and thank you to everyone here at the Department of Justice for hosting us in the Great Hall. It truly adds gravitas to the work that we're doing together, the important work that we all bring to the table together, and it is a really grand way to celebrate a decade of incredibly hard work. I hope that everyone here in the room and everyone who's joining us online can really get a feel of the atmosphere. I think there is a real optimism and commitment, and I'm really looking forward to the next several hours together. As I look across the table here, across all the departments and the agencies in this administration, you can feel the real urgency around the issues that matter to older adults. I personally see this every day when I come into work at the Administration for Community Living and in the actions of each of our agencies, all 16 that are represented here today, including, of course, Attorney General Garland's Department of Justice. And as you'll hear today, efforts to advance elder justice have both a significant history with incredible champions, with many of those who we will be hearing from and honoring today. But I really want to give a push to all of us because we are at an incredible moment in time. We have the wind behind our back with an administration that has made this a priority, with the visibility of our issues, and we have an incredible opportunity to both build off the legacy that we will honor today, but extend our gains to reach hard and go well beyond what was imaginable when the Council was formed more than a decade ago. Before we proceed to the program, I want to carry out one of my important duties as the delegated chair, which is welcoming each of the Council members and delegates to this meeting. And again, I want to thank you for being here today, both my colleagues from across the federal government and the people in this room. And I really want to say that each of you are here today because of our common goal and our common shared value of ending elder abuse and neglect. And I want to acknowledge that that is a heavy responsibility for each of us as Council members, to fulfill our purpose of advancing the cause of elder justice, because it is an unfortunate truth that our society does not always provide the opportunities it should for everyone to stay fully engaged and connected to their communities throughout their life. And this disconnection leaves people who are our family members, our neighbors, our community, at increased risk of experiencing maltreatment. But together, we can work as change agents. The council meetings and all of the important work that happens in between really highlight our all-of-government approach, a use every tool in our toolbox kind of approach to advancing elder justice. And I can say, as someone who joined the Biden-Harris administration on day one, elder justice has been a priority. At this point in time, it's right to pause, to celebrate the incredible vision from a little more than 10 years ago, to feel good about our accomplishments, and then to seize the moment, to really think about what our next 10 years can and should look like, and to be strategic and think about how we seize the momentum to achieve even more. I know we won't be able to get through all of that in one meeting, but in the coming weeks and the coming months, as we chart our course forward, I really encourage everyone on this council to think big and bold. So now I have the pleasure of giving every coordinating council member 1 minute, seriously guys, 1 minute, to introduce yourselves, and as we go around, to please share your name, title, and very briefly share 1 or 2 initiatives that you oversee or a quick recap of a recent accomplishment. And I'll take the privilege of starting first for HHS and mention ACL's Office of Elder Justice and Protective Services. This office not only helps coordinate this council, but we also oversee federal adult protective services efforts nationwide and work on a variety of elder justice initiatives. I am so proud to be the federal home for adult protective services, and we just did something really big. We put out the first ever federal regulations for adult protective services programs, and you'll be hearing more about that from our colleagues at ACL later this morning. So next, as host, I would like to call on our host, the Department of Justice representative. So, Andy. And you may need to turn on your microphone so everyone can hear you. Yeah, folks can turn back around if they'd like.
Good morning. My name is Andy Mao. I'm the Department of Justice's Elder Justice Coordinator. It's a privilege to be here. I'll be talking a little bit more later, so I'll cede my time, but it's really a pleasure to see so many friends and advocates that we've worked with through the years. Thank you.
Great, and next I'll call on the United States Department of Labor.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Gomez, and I am very proud and honored to serve as the Assistant Secretary for Employee Benefits and the head of the Employee Benefit Security Administration at DOL. And one recent accomplishment that we had at EBSA that relates to elder justice as well as retirement investors generally is the issuance of our retirement security rule, which states that all retirement investors should, when they're seeking advice from a financial professional about how to invest their retirement savings, should be able to get advice that is in their best interest and not the interest of the financial advisor. So we're very proud of that, and I'm very happy to be here today with all of you.
Thank you. And next, U.S. Postal Inspection Service.
Good morning. As she said, my name is Gary Barksdale, and I'm the Chief Postal Inspector for the United States Postal Inspection Service. Certainly very proud and feel privileged to serve as a part of this council. Proud of the work that inspectors are doing around the country, primarily in two areas. We support this initiative. One is on the enforcement side. We have our Department of Justice-led Transnational Elder Fraud Strike Force team. But at the time of arrest, we failed our elderly. So our second big initiative really is the work we're doing on the fraud prevention side. So in the interest of time, I'll just encourage you to visit our website, usbis.gov, for some really good public service announcements for our elders. Thank you.
Thank you. Securities and Exchange Commission.
Great. Good morning. I'm Lori Schock. I'm the Director of the Office of Investor Education and Advocacy at the Securities and Exchange Commission. I just wanted to highlight a couple of the initiatives that the SEC has undertaken since becoming a member of this esteemed council. One of the biggest accomplishments during this time period has been the Trusted Contact Rule, which allows firms to have individuals add a trusted contact to their account before they run into an issue, and it gets beyond some of the privacy issues that firms had. Also, there's an ability to delay transactions if there's suspected elder abuse or financial fraud here. And those are big initiatives for us. And from the investor education perspective, we do an annual public service campaign. And last year's campaign focused on older Americans as investors. And this year's campaign, which will launch next week, continues that as a multi-generational campaign to get the whole family involved. As we all know, we can't do it alone. We need everybody helping in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Federal Trade Commission.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lois Greisman. I have the honor of serving as the FTC's Elder Justice Coordinator. I also oversee a lot of law enforcement initiatives where we see older adults disproportionately impacted by scams. One example is a recent law enforcement action in which we secured $18.5 million against Publishers Clearinghouse, alleging that it misrepresented that you had to make a purchase in order to secure the prize. We also at the FTC do an annual report on fraud affecting older adults, and that encapsulates our law enforcement work, our public outreach and educational initiatives, and also provides in-depth data analysis of how fraud impacts older adults based upon the millions of consumer reports we receive every year. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Good morning. I am Lynn Grasso. I am the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Fair Housing Enforcement at the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. I'm very pleased to be here. We at HUD know how important affordable housing and accessible housing is for our seniors. And we have recently issued first of its kind guidance addressing the use of AI and algorithms in how tenant screening is done. And we know very often tenant screening can be very impactful on how seniors can access affordable, accessible housing. So feel free to access that guidance on our website. We think it's very relevant to this important population. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Department of Veteran Affairs.
Good morning. My name is Garrison Petroviak. I am proxy for Dr. Elijah Carter, the Executive Director for Pension and Fiduciary Service, which is the office representing the Department of Veteran Affairs for the Honorable Dennis McDonough. My office is responsible for managing pension, survivors, and fiduciary services, which are inclusive of the elderly population. Our program not only pays benefits and provides services, but also provides oversight for the vulnerable population.
Thank you. Legal Services Corporation.
Thank you. I'm Ron Flagg, President of LSC. We are the nation's biggest funder of civil legal aid. We fund 131 programs operating over 900 offices throughout the country. In 2023, our grantees served over 2 million people. Roughly 200,000 of those were older adults. The one initiative I'd like to highlight is a four-part training series we co-sponsored with the Administration for Community Living that was hosted by the National Center for Elder Rights on closing the justice gap for older adults. It was a very popular series. Over 1,000 people attended remotely each of the 4 training sessions, which covered things like nursing facility evictions, partnering with protective services, and representing clients of varying capacities. And we're in the process of planning our next training series with ACL, and we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Social Security Administration.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ben Belton, Senior Advisor to the Commissioner of the U.S. Social Security Administration. I'm going to cede my time because I'm going to be speaking later, but just want to say good morning and thank you so much for all that you do.
Great. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Royster. I'm Assistant Director of the Office for Older Americans at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It is my honor to be here today and to serve as Director Rohit Chopra's designee for this 10th anniversary EJCC meeting. The Dodd-Frank Act created the Office for Older Americans with the aim of protection from unfair, deceptive, and abusive practices related to older adults' financial choices. So the work of the EJCC fits squarely within our mission. In the interest of time, I will focus on one of our key initiatives. Our office has several initiatives that are focused on combating elder fraud. One of our most important initiatives is our fraud prevention work. We continue to monitor financial institutions to make sure they are doing their part to combat elder financial exploitation, using tools like suspicious activities reports, trusted contacts, and transaction holes. In addition, in collaboration with the FDIC, we have created the Money Smart for Older Adults Scam Awareness Prevention Program, which is used to train bank staff and older adults how to identify and respond to scams. Finally, through our CFPB Elder Fraud Prevention and Response Networks, we bring together professionals throughout the country to collaborate to protect older adults from financial exploitation. We're very excited to work with our federal partners who are here today to expand on these efforts. We've enjoyed working with you for the last, 10 years, and we look forward to continuing to work together on this important issue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. AmeriCorps.
Thank you. My name is Robin Carindo, and I am the Deputy Director of AmeriCorps Seniors. I'm standing in for Italia Sergi, our National Director, who is traveling today and represents AmeriCorps on the Council. AmeriCorps Seniors is a grant-making office in AmeriCorps that supports communities to engage older adults, 55 and older, in volunteerism and national service. We support our volunteers in both being aware and training them on issues of elder justice and providing them services in their community to support elder justice initiatives, such as the Ombudsman Program, educating older adults and others on scams and fraud to avoid financial exploitation, supporting the Attorney General's offices in investigation of scams, and reporting abuse, to name a few. I look forward to the conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you. Federal Communications Commission.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kayla Hernandez Ulloa. I'm with the Federal Communications Commission in the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really honored to be here. Continuing working with all of you here, I'll be very brief on my remarks. The Federal Communications Commission is, for those of you that are not familiar with us, a regulatory agency. We regulate all to do with telecom. But in the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau, we do look out for our consumers. We have a lot of things that we are doing, but I just wanted to list a few of them. With regards to older adults, we do continue to encourage everyone to ask us for our information about robocall scams and unwanted texts and calls. That's a really big issue right now. We like to remind consumers that we have also updated our information for 211, which is the local line for health, where a lot of consumers access health services. And we also like to remind everyone that we do have information that is available for request on not only these, but all of our other issues. Anyone that is interested in finding where the consumer-focused information is on can look on our online Consumer Help Center. We do have a Consumer Complaints Center, which can be reached via consumercomplaints.fcc.gov. But for those consumers that still do not have access to the internet, we also have our toll-free number, 888-225-5322. I look forward to hearing from everyone today about everything that they're doing to help older adults. And again, thank you for having the FCC here today.
Thank you. Department of Homeland Security.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Smith, and I am the Acting Director of FEMA's Individual and Community Preparedness Division within the Department of Homeland Security. My office works to empower people and their communities to know and act on their risk for all hazards before, during, and after disasters. One of the longstanding programs that we have is the Emergency Financial First Aid Toolkit, which helps all Americans, including older Americans, organize their financial, medical, and home information before disaster happens to help increase and speed up their recovery and reduce the chances that they will be abused and financially exploited. One recent initiative that FEMA has undertaken is a partnership with the Rosalind Carter Institute. In February, we released with them a disaster preparedness guide for caregivers. This is the first of its kind guide to help caregivers prepare for disasters and protect their loved ones. I look forward to today's conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Department of Agriculture. Oh, okay. Do we have anyone from Ag here? Okay, Department of Treasury.
Good morning.
My note said you were going to be late. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Good morning. My name is Natalia Lee. I'm the Director in the Office of Consumer Policy at the Treasury Department. Within the Treasury, consumer policy plays a really important part. Mostly, we produce policy analysis on developments in financial services that impact consumers and coordinate and manage the Financial Literacy and Education Commission. The Financial Literacy and Education Commission is an interagency body chaired by the Secretary of the Treasury and dedicated to advancing financial well-being through education and literacy. The Office of Consumer Policy currently serves as Treasury's designee for the Federal Trade Commission Advisory Group established in September 2022 pursuant to the Frauds and Scams Reduction Act to better identify and help prevent frauds and scams targeting older adults. Importantly, this advisory group recently produced a user-friendly, streamlined reference sheet outlining messages and outreach best practices that could be used by all stakeholders in their communications efforts around fraud prevention for older adults. During our upcoming Financial Literacy and Education Commission meeting on July 10th, the colleagues from the Federal Trade Commission will discuss this document in more detail and the work that has gone in to produce it. I encourage you all to tune in. It's a public meeting. Thank you for including Treasury in this important work. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you to each of the coordinating council members and delegates, and truly, every time we gather, and I've had the privilege, I think this might be maybe my 6th or 7th meeting with you all. It's great that you're not little boxes on screens. I'm just so impressed at what each agency is doing and the incredible commitment. So, we're not having just a regular meeting today. We are actually celebrating today. And so the agenda has really been developed with that in mind. We'll start by taking a moment to reflect on where we've come from. And I am so excited for our upcoming panel. And what would an in-person meeting be without a few fireside chats? And then we'll talk about really what we have achieved. And then, of course, a big piece is for us to look forward. And we're maybe going to be a little fuzzy on our math here. We're calling this the 10-year anniversary, but we're really building from the inauguration of the Elder Justice Coordinating Council in June 2012 at the White House. So we're celebrating our first decade-ish and thinking about our next decade going forward. So I want to now turn to a discussion that I could not be more excited about. And I'd like to call Kathy to come on up. As part of our retrospective look on the work of the Council, we are truly honored to have with us today an incredible elder justice champion and staunch advocate, former Assistant Secretary for Aging, Kathy Greenlee, and I'd invite you to come take a chair. Kathy participated in conversations nationally, at the White House, and with Congress throughout her tenure as Assistant Secretary. And most importantly for us today, Kathy was pivotal in the early conversations regarding elder justice and this council, and served as the first chair of this council. Kind of big shoes to fill standing up here, Kathy. Kathy has just an incredible deep understanding of aging issues from her time in federal service and her 18-plus years in Kansas state government, where she served in many high-level positions, including as Secretary of Aging under then Kathleen Sebelius. Today, Kathy serves as chair of the National Council on Aging's Board of Directors and as president and CEO of Greenlee Global, where she's continuing her incredible work addressing elder abuse and neglect. So I am going to come sit down next to Kathy, and I'm really excited to relive a little bit some incredible history. Okay, welcome. Can people hear us okay? Okay, great. Kathy, you made elder justice one of your top priorities when you became Assistant Secretary for Aging. There are so many issues that older adults face. Why did you pick that one?
I will tell you, I would like to do an acknowledgement. Before I do, I just want to acknowledge the importance of the Attorney General coming. Having Attorney General Garland here is a big deal. The very first actual convening, we announced it at the White House in June. The very first convening was in October 2012, and HHS Secretary Kathleen Sebelius was there. Attorney General Eric Holder was there in person. And the success of this council depends on that level of leadership at the federal level, so having the Attorney General here is huge. I also want to acknowledge Lance Robertson, who's sitting here on the first row, who succeeded me as Assistant Secretary for Aging. And when Lance and I had the traditional welcome to the job phone call, we talked about this council and the importance of this council and keeping it elevated at a high level within the federal agencies so that it can be successful. So I just want to give a shout out to Lance, who also has chaired this council. For me, yes, I came to Washington 15 years ago knowing I would work on this issue. There are, like reciting my whole life, there are two primary reasons. One, 40 years ago, which is kind of shocking to me, I was trained to be a volunteer at the domestic violence shelter in Lawrence, Kansas, and did about 5 years of work in the domestic violence field. So I have this passion for just the justice issues in general. From that, I really have a perspective of how far behind we've been in the elder justice work, how far behind elder justice is from child protective and child abuse work, domestic violence work, and sexual assault. I then started to see the issue of elder financial exploitation and elder abuse through nearly every job I had in state government, including my very first job as an Assistant Attorney General. So in 1992 or 93, I was in the Consumer Protection Division. I'm a lawyer. This is what I migrate to. I love being in this building. I had a paper sack full of mail delivered to me, and it was from Federal District Judge Richard Rogers in the District of Kansas. His aunt was being financially exploited through junk mail. This is before computers. This is when we were working with boiler rooms, selling hot lists, and I worked with many federal agencies as a young attorney on trying to tackle financial exploitation. And the issue of elder abuse then continued to show up in every job I had in the state.
So we're here celebrating a decade-ish of EJCC. Kathy is the one who called me out on the 10-year
It's 12, I was there.
Yeah, I know. But 12-year anniversary celebration doesn't sound as good, does it, y'all? So, as someone who myself has been in and out of government, I call myself an advocrat. I think you're one of those too. You know, everything has to do with inside, outside, partnerships, the role of government, and the role of advocates. And I just really want to call out in this room, because maybe people online can't see, the incredible advocates who I know have made Elder Justice Act and EJCC what it is because of your advocacy. So can you tell us really how the EJCC came about? And please touch on both the incredible work and push that happened from the inside, but we want to really recognize the important work that happened on the outside to make this happen?
So I've been really honored to do this work. It's deeply meaningful to me, but I've always considered it a medley relay, and I'm either the second or the third leg. There are people who've been doing this work much longer than me, and I risk losing or not naming the right people, but I at least have to acknowledge M.T. Connolly and Laura Mosqueda, who are here, Sid Stahl and Edwin Walker. I am not the first generation of this work. I came to this building on the work that they had already done. When the Affordable Care Act passed, the Elder Justice Act was a part of it. The first time I heard Bob Lancato, the Elder Justice Coalition director, talk about it, I couldn't believe it had taken 10 years to get the Elder Justice Act passed. It made so much sense. It's like, why is this so hard? I hadn't been in Washington yet. It just made so much sense. And so really it was the work of other people that I built upon and could then use and did use the Elder Justice Act itself as a bit of a roadmap for myself, a template for myself on, okay, well, this is what these smart, passionate advocates think we should do. Which pieces of this can I do? And standing up the Elder Justice Coordinating Council was one of those pieces. Building a national database for adult protective services was another. In early 2012 was an presidential election year. In early 2012, someone from the White House called me, and it was an election year. We'd like to do an event for seniors. How about we do an event on elder abuse? And they agreed. And I had been working with the White House for a year or so at that point, and they agreed to let us put together something on elder abuse. So for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and Stephanie and Edwin walked this walk with me, June 14th, 2012, we did the first ever convening at the White House. Some of you all were there. I remember my closing remarks, because I said, I hope we looked at historically and considered that event epic, and I think it was. But the thing with the White House, any White House, is you get ready to do an event, they want to look good. So in the lead up to the event, we were able to secure things. It's like, let's stand up the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. So they announced that at that event. They also gave us, through AOA, we weren't ACL, well, maybe we're a month old as ACL. They gave us $6 million in innovation funding, and that money still exists. And we've had $6 million a year every year since then to help build the field. Those are the things that we were able to build because of a convening and the support of the White House.
So we're today kind of looking at where we came from and where we're going. So I have to ask,